Hey everybody, welcome to What the Tech. I'm Andrew Zarin. Of course, I'm joined by the one, the only, Paul Thurrott. How you doing, Paul?
That guy.
That guy.
How you doing?
Paul is the creator of Winsupersite.com. For all things Microsoft on there. Talks about Android. You talk about Apple. You know, your name is quite misleading, Paul, because it is not only about Windows.
Yep.
It is about everything. I think you should have subdomains. If I could do it over
again, I would have rebranded that.
I think you should have subdomains like Android Supersite and Apple Supersite.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't care.
Have you ever thought about what it would have been if you didn't name it Winsupersite? Like, do you have a name in your head?
No, I mean, the Supersite was supposed to be a very kind of flash in the pan kind of thing. It was going to be a mini site based around one version of Windows. And the original name of the site was, actually it was called the Windows NT 5.0 Super Site. You know, and I've met people, especially people from other parts of the world. I mean, Super Site is an unusual term. And I remember a guy from the Netherlands was saying, when I first saw the name of your site, I thought, like, who is this guy? Like, who does he think he is? Like, what's so super about his site? And I didn't mean it like that. I was trying to find a name that meant that it was like focused on this one thing,
And did you feel like screwed when it wasn't called Windows NT 5.0?
Well, yeah, that happened. I mean, they announced that less than 2 months after I did that. I had to change the name of the site many times. I think I changed it to Windows 2000 Supersite briefly because that was the name they changed it to. Then Microsoft contacted me back around that time frame. They were very idioty about people using the Windows name in their domains and or in their site names, and they said it would be okay to use, but only if Windows wasn't the first term. So I changed. That's how it became Supersite for Windows. It was probably Supersite for Windows 2000 at first. And yeah, I mean, I that's not how I would have done it. I mean, I didn't, anticipate the site becoming what it became, and I didn't brand it that way, and I absolutely would have done it differently. So
I think it should be been called the Windows NT 5.0 Workstation Server Supersite.
Yeah, right.
It should have been the full name.
In some ways, it is as long and complex as a typical Microsoft product name. So there's some.
So what did you envision?
There.
I think I've probably asked you this a bunch of times, but what did you envision from the side? Like, did you think like, okay, this would be a one-off thing, and then that would be it, or?
Well, actually, so it's funny. Either I'm incredibly uninventive, or these patterns just kind of repeat themselves. But if you think about the way everything has changed when it comes to publishing, and when I say publishing, I don't just mean books, but everything. We used to have books and magazines and computer literature of, documentation and all this stuff. It was all on paper, obviously, and electronic is a fairly obvious and wonderful thing when it works right. But way back then, the notion of just doing a site that would focus on this one topic was actually fairly unusual. And if you think about it, it was approached like I would approach a book. I'm going to cover this one thing, and I'm going to, write again and again and again about it. And then at some point we're going to be done, and I'll move on to the next version of Windows, and I'll call that site something else, whatever it might be. And today I do these books, and I treat the books that way too. I mean, the books are these kind of living entities. They're standalone things. They're available electronically. I update them over time, It's kind of the same thing. I mean, so in many ways, if you look at something like the Windows 8.1 Field Guide or, the Windows Phone Book of the same name, those are sort of spiritual successors to the original vision. I hate to call it a vision, but the original version. I think
14 years ago, when you go back like 14 years ago, right? Probably that's when you started it.
Yeah.
For Windows 2000 when was the release date? It was September of 2000. So when the internet was still in its infancy, I mean, this modern internet probably started around then, and you probably took the approach as if it's a book, like you said. And now we're seeing the reverse, right? I mean, you're writing these ebooks and these online-based books, and you're constantly updating it, which that never happened. That was impossible to do. Can you imagine putting out a new version every 6 months for the same book?
Right.
It's insane.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, it's good in many ways. You know, there are downsides to it as well. But you know, I mean, I grew up reading books. I like books, and it's hard. We talk about this stuff. It's hard. Change is hard. You know, it's. I'm as traditional as anyone else. I get set in my ways like anyone else, and sometimes it's funny. Like Amazon has a service. I think it's called Create Space that will print like an ebook. You can get a printed version of it. And I wanted to see what that would look like. And they'll actually send you a proof so you can see what it will look like. And so I got a copy of my Windows book, like the Windows 8.1 Field Guide, in the mail the other day. Actually, probably a week or two ago. And, you know, it's funny. I lived with that book for almost a year. It's all, you know, it's a lot of what I did during that year, obviously, not all I did. But it's, you know, we sell it. It's like a real thing. But then you see it in paper and you're like, oh, my God, it's real. You know, even though it's always been real.
One of my friends, he wrote, which I'm going to be interviewing this Thursday on my wrestling show. He wrote a book about 10 years ago called The Death of WCW, which was a wrestling organization. Yep. And when he initially wrote the book for the publisher, he had like 550 pages. This thing was gigantic. And they essentially took down the entire book. They cut the book down to 200 pages, and he's re-releasing it 10 years later.
Yeah.
With the rest of the books, and he's releasing it in October. And just think about that. I mean, just the concept of you wrote this book, you had all this extra stuff in there. They said no to you, but in 2004, really, ebooks weren't that big of a thing. People weren't releasing these digital versions of the books to the internet. So now we have the technology where you could go back and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to remove this because this was incorrect, and I'm going to add all this new information. So you're essentially releasing a brand new book. It's amazing. I mean, the fact that ebooks have allowed us to do that.
Yeah.
Where nothing sits idle. I mean, there should be no excuse for outdated information if you have an ebook.
Well, I can just tell you from personal experience, depending on how you publish to a place like Amazon.
Depending on how you publish it. Yeah, you're right.
It's actually very difficult to update an ebook too, which is dumb. And that was something I've learned, you know, of the process of this thing. And you know, and I don't know why we're talking about this, but when I first started working on the Windows book about a year ago, the plan was always, I'm going to get this on Kindle. I'm going to get this on Kindle. I'm going to get this on Kindle. And I put over 100 updates out to the book in various, you know, e-book formats. And, you know, finally we kind of hit that 1.0 version. It was kind of squishy there for a while. It's hard to kind of write. It's hard to kind of say you're done, you know, because you're never really done. But, you start looking at like, how can I get this thing on Kindle? And to be honest, you know, it's very hard to update an ebook on Kindle, depending on how you do it. And what I discovered was that those things that I was putting out the whole time over the previous year, actually the previous 2 years, if you want to include the first Windows Phone book, is better. It's better for me because you're, you know, paying me directly. It's better for the person buying the book because now I can update it whenever I want. I could release updates all day long, every day if I wanted to. And you can download them if you want to, and you can always update the book if you want to. You can't do that through Amazon. And so Amazon's obviously better than, you know, going through a paper publisher. But actually, there's still some limitations to it. And that was kind of a weird thing because I know a lot of people were waiting on the, you know, the Kindle version. But actually, they shouldn't have been because it turns out the version that I was able to provide, that I am still able to provide on my own, is better. It's better for all of us. And so that's kind of a, you know, that's just a weird thing that I learned. But, you know, convincing people of that is a little difficult because it's not as seamless as going to Amazon.com, clicking buy it now and just getting it. But I can update the version I give you much more easily. So
I just got a message from somebody on my Facebook, someone that's watching the show, and he goes, "Oh, keep asking Paul these questions because I find it fascinating." I do too. I mean, I've always been. I'm not. I could go on the air and talk for hours, and I could be an idiot or I could be serious. I can't imagine the difficulty of sitting there and writing. And you write. I mean, you're writing technically detailed information that it has to be accurate. Right? You can't say like, well, it could be this or it can't. It has to be an accurate topic that you're discussing. It seems very difficult to me, but I always find it fascinating when I talk to you, Paul. You're a very fascinating man.
Well,
wow, you're very fascinating.
Well, I don't know how fast. I don't know. You know, sometimes I feel like I spend too much time thinking about this kind of stuff, but the process of writing a book on your own and publishing it on your own is certainly not for everybody and is grueling and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. I mean, there's stuff that a publishing company can do for you that's valuable. And then there are problems with that approach. But it was just, I think the big surprise for me for this most recent book was just that thing I just said, which is that the Amazon Kindle format is not not this utopia at the end of the rainbow where everything gets perfect. And I wish I had known that 6 months ago, because I would have pushed the version I was doing a little harder, because as it turns out, that's a better, it's better, And here's another example. Everyone knows that you can get like this Winsupersite delivery for free on the Kindle format. So if you have like a Kindle device and you buy a book, it just, voila, it kind of appears for free. That's not free. It's free to you as the user. It's not free to the publisher. And so when you self-publish a book, you need to pay for that. And so there's a fee involved. And because the book that I'm selling is humongous, it's also 500 and something pages long and has lots of pictures, which bumps up the file size. The delivery fee for that book is actually kind of enormous. And so for me to make roughly the same amount of money I make selling it directly, so if I sold it directly for $2, for example, I have to sell it for at least $5 on Amazon to make the same amount.
To make the same amount. So it's almost double. I mean,
still
really.
a little bit less. Yeah. Now, as Raphael could tell you, because I work on Raphael with that book, and with the payment stuff in particular, taking payments yourself through PayPal and Amazon, which is what we do, is a freaking disaster. It is.
Oh, I know.
And if you want this might be an interesting topic for the the latter show, but those companies suck. Yeah. And they suck the life out of everything. And there's all this stuff that they don't let you modify the communications between the sale and the person making the sale or buying the product.
And also they're very they're not they're pro the consumer, they're not pro the seller. Well, in many ways.
Yeah. I mean, there's if you went and looked at the website that we have for the book, one thing that you would notice is that it's very Spartan and there's not a lot going on. So it's not like you could kind of lose your way around the site. And every single update that I make to the site, there's a note at the bottom that says, if you bought the book, you should have a download link. If you don't have the download link, you can write Paul or Raphael here. The email addresses are there. We will always provide you with this link. If you bought the link and you bought the book and you lost the link, just contact us anytime. It's no problem. We've had 5 or 6 people dispute their purchase from PayPal because they never got the book. And when you buy the book, you get an email that has that link in it. And I feel like we do a tremendous job of communicating how you can get the book on the site every single time we update the book. And it's like, seriously. And every time we've received a complaint like that from PayPal, we look that person up and they've never contacted us ever.
Yeah.
Like they just go right to PayPal. They have a spaz attack. And by the way, I just want to say, $2.
Well, I mean, people have been asking me, we get messages from people and, with Patreon initially, because we do the Patreon campaign, initially they didn't accept PayPal. Now they do. But a lot of people would say like, hey, how come you don't accept PayPal? Can I send you money this way? Can I send you money that way? And obviously, I mean, I would love to accept your money, but even dealing with PayPal, it's still difficult because I'm in charge of bookkeeping for this. And with Patreon, they do all the work. They hold on to the money for a little bit longer and they take a cut, obviously. It's not instant, but they deal with the headache and everything is done. They manage it, and all I get at the end of the month or so is a check.
Yeah, well, yeah, is it? So I'm curious to see how all this works out. One thing I just set up is one thing to look into, and you've seen these devices. There's a Square device. That's that little white thing that you stick into the bottom of an iPhone or an Android device, and it lets you run a credit card across the top of it. Anyone can set up a Square account for free. And when you do that, they send you that device for free. If you write them and say, I want another one, or I lost mine, or it's broken, they'll send you another one for free. If you were to buy that thing in a retail store somehow, they'll refund you the cost of it because it's free. And comparing that to something like PayPal or eBay, by the way, is night and day. Now, I've not used it yet, but some people have written me occasionally and said, "Hey, I'd love to pay for you. I'd love to pay you directly for this thing. It's too bad you don't take like MasterCard or whatever directly." And I think there's a way you can do that through PayPal, but PayPal, like I said, is so awful. It's just so awful. I'm really kind of souring on that stuff, and I'm wondering now if I can't take payments through Square. You know, they have some kind of a charge, but it's really minimal, and it's and if you do a transaction, I'd have to figure. The problem is I'd have to figure out some way I could securely take credit card numbers over the internet. But if you do a transaction without the device, it's like a 30% fee or something.
Wow.
It's something like that. Actually, it's probably less. Whatever it is, it's reasonable for what you're getting. Like the ability of a human being to like take a credit card payment is kind of amazing. Anyway, that's a lot of stuff there. So,
which we should talk about at the on the bonus show, because this is fascinating stuff. Like even with our Patreon thing, I have not gotten a payout yet, and I'm trying to figure out. You know, they hang on to the money for a while, so there is a 2 or 3 month hold on this. Because I've issued, you know what I mean? Like, even stuff like that. But, I mean, that's what every advertiser... But we'll talk about that. Because we'll talk about... You know what we should talk about?
Well, by the way,
making money as a
all
podcast.
Kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Kindle Direct Publishing and, like, how they pay you. Or don't pay you. Or like, you know, if you want to...
Paul, can I pay you in Dodge coins?
Yeah, I mean, well... It's funny, like, you know, like the book that's in the Kindle store now, like I can go to Kindle Direct Publishing and I can see how it's doing, meaning it sells in some single digit number of copies every day or something. So they can generate like this report for me. And you would think, look, I'm not an Excel expert, but it seems to me there should be a way to generate a report that says, here's how much you've earned so far. And I can explain to you why that's not the case. But the short version is it's actually kind of amazing. They give you all these numbers, like how it's sold in each market. It sold X number of units at this price in this market. And you could sum those columns, but that's not what you get because you only get like a percentage of it. The part where you see the royalty that you were paid, there is a column for that. But every number is in the local currency. So you would have to do math that would somehow maybe have a live connection to the...
Jeez.
No, it wouldn't. To the actual, you know, conversion number percentage for that day to US. You know what I mean? Like they don't do that for you.
You know, so I would rather not make any money.
Well, by the way, that's easy because basically not making any money. Anyway, sorry, I could go on and on about this stuff. To conclude it, all I want to say is I hate that stuff. I don't want to deal with the numbers and the math and people complaining to PayPal who have no business complaining to PayPal. I answer emails every day from people who lost the link. I have no problem, and the people have written will tell you. I write back immediately every single time. I never question it. It's no problem. But I want to write the book. You know what I mean? I want to put the book together. I want to talk about, not I mean here, but I mean
you want to do the creative aspect of it, not
just the book.
Yeah.
And this crap where it's, I hate this stuff.
With that said, I think this is a great topic for our bonus show, and I think I'll segue into our Patreon campaign. If you're listening now live, there's about 150, 160 of you in the chat room. Obviously, there's tens of thousands. You know, Paul, thousands of people listen to the show every week. It's insane. It's crazy. I'm shocked sometimes when I see the numbers. Generally, they're here to hear me act like an idiot and for you to say no, Andrew. That's not how it happens. But a lot of you guys have been listening for a long time, and a lot of you are funding us. You know, we have a lot of ideas for the show. We are about to install a phone system into the studio. It's a very complex, very expensive. Not that expensive, actually. Quite affordable if you're in podcasting and radio. We're about to install this phone system in here. We want to do phone calls. We want to hear from you. We're going to be talking about select topics, and you guys could call and give us your input on these things. These things are made possible by you guys when you fund us. We have a Patreon campaign. If you go to patreon.com/whatthetech, you could go there. You could fund us $1. You could give us $2, $5. Someone's giving us $20 a week per episode, which I'm extremely grateful for. Or you could give us 50 cents, whatever you want. And in return, we're able to do these upgrades. We're going to be doing some bonus shows. We are every week we record a bonus show, but on top of that, we want to do some extra stuff. We had an idea. We were drunk when we were talking about this. Well, at least I was. But we were talking about doing like a live show from New York. You know, Mary Jo Foley would be there and Paul would be there. We'd all do this big live show and you guys could watch. But these things are made possible if you guys fund us. Right now, we're almost at $400. I want to be at $400 a week by the end of the month. I think that's a pretty decent number. We have about half the month left. You go to patreon.com/whatthetech, and you can find this. You know, if we got $1 from every viewer, we would be very wealthy right now. Very wealthy men, Paul.
That's something I've often thought about as well, you know.
We'd be very wealthy.
If you visit my site and you paid $1 for the book, you know,
yeah,
the book would do great.
Listen, and you know what? We're not taking away anything.
Cheapskates.
People have actually said, you know, I got an email from a guy who goes, now that you're doing this funding, what are you taking away from the show? We're not taking away anything. We're still giving away everything that we normally would do. Just we're doing extras now, and we want to, you know, do something as a bonus for you guys. Patreon.com/whatthetech. Paul and I will be doing a late night chat show one day. Wow. We're going to be sitting in the dark.
Can we call it Baywatch Nights?
Baywatch Nights. Phil from San Antonio, you're on the air. Rancho Cucamonga, you're on the air. We'll do like a Larry King style broadcast.
Right.
But patreon.com/whatthetech. I appreciate everybody that's funding it. You guys know who you are, and it goes a very, very long way. As long as I could get the money one day from them. They're holding it out on me, Paul. It says, account balance. Would you like to set a payment? Yes. We will get back to you when we process this. That's what they write. All right, Paul, let's talk about tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow, there is an event. There's the Amazon event. And Amazon will most likely will be announcing their new phone. They're entering the phone market. Years of speculation on when this would be happening. They currently have a set-top box for the living room. They have a tablet. They have an app store. They have a music streaming service, which was just released. And they have a store, an online retailer. They essentially have everything that everybody else has, plus some more, right? I mean, if you look at it on paper, they have the advantage here because their ecosystem is so large, and it covers so much.
Yeah.
But will they be dominant in the mobile field? That's the question right now.
Honestly, I think Amazon's biggest advantage is that they have this crossover ecosystem, right? You know, Google, Microsoft, Apple all have digital ecosystems, and they're plus or minus all pretty decent in their own way. Amazon has this kind of physical ecosystem as well, and that's very interesting. They also have an amazing cloud computing infrastructure through Amazon Web Services and so forth that you know, they haven't really taken advantage of, or at least haven't publicly touted with regards to the digital media stuff like Microsoft has with Azure and Xbox One and all that. But I think that's the thing. Like Amazon has this kind of crossover appeal, you know, where you buy, it's funny. I mean, some of the stuff you could buy from Amazon is kind of laughable. You could buy diapers, toilet paper, and T-shirts, and gardening equipment, and whatever. And
I'm one of those people, Paul. I buy all my stuff on Amazon. I don't, I don't, like I bought a T-shirt from there. It was a crappy T-shirt, but I just needed a certain T-shirt for the next day. I didn't want to go out, and I just ordered it. And you know what? $10. I bought a T-shirt on Amazon, and it came the following day, less than 12 hours later.
I know. I just spent $105 on T-shirts, by the way, at Amazon, which is probably why I said T-shirts. However, I would just say from a matter of perspective, I think the one thing we all need to remember is that this kind of crossover ecosystem, or however you want to describe that, doesn't predetermine success, right? When the digital music services were starting to take off about a decade ago, companies like Walmart started digital music services. Rolling Stone started one. Rolling Stone? No, not Rolling Stone. MP3. I'm sorry, MTV. You know, those kinds of things are not always successful. So Walmart has a big audience, and they didn't necessarily buy into Walmart's digital offerings, you know. And so the crossover success story is not guaranteed. You know, the Kindle Fire tablets are, you know, a reasonable business. Certainly they're bigger than Windows Phone is, say, in the handset market. They're not one of the top 2, top 3, whatever. I mean, devices. But
you were a big fan of it initially, and I feel like you're not as into it as you were, let's say, a year ago.
Well, yeah, this is like when your favorite band becomes big and you don't like them because they're
they sold out.
No, it's not. No, that's not it. Yeah, part of the issue that I have with Amazon is that they don't fairly spread their apps and services to all of the supported platforms. And so I for example, on Windows Phone or Windows 8, we have an Amazon Kindle app and we have an Amazon app. I don't care about the Amazon app. It's just like, using the website essentially. The Kindle app is an incredibly lackluster experience compared to what's available on iPad or iPhone or Android, or of course on their own devices. Incredibly lackluster. It's never updated in any meaningful way, has never been updated in any meaningful way. It lacks such basic features as display my library by most recent, so I can see the most recent purchases at the top and more easily find them and select them. It doesn't even have that. I mean, this is if you handed me the code for this app, I could add that feature. I mean, this makes no sense. They just don't even try. And then there are apps that just don't exist on the Windows platforms. The recent Amazon Music, which used to be called Amazon MP3, now has that streaming music service.
By the way, it's awful.
Yeah, it is terrible. But it's a free. But see, it's a perk of Amazon Prime, which is kind of a real world service that has digital benefits. And I can't really take advantage of it because I could use the desktop version. I guess I could use the cloud, the web version on the web browser. But
I'll tell you though, the UI is nice.
It's fine.
It's okay for I download it on a Mac. I go, okay, I get it. It's fine. Look, it's good looking. But who's going to use this? Number one, you still have to pay for the music. It's not like it's just streaming free music to Prime members. It's the same concept behind Prime Video, where some stuff is available, but most of the stuff that's current is not. And
I don't understand it, to be honest. I mean, because
I don't understand how they select it. Like, why? What things are free and what's not?
Who goes into a CVS or a Walmart and buys a $59, $69, $99, $129 tablet, right? These are not sophisticated technology purchasers, The people who go to Amazon.com and see the Kindle advertised on the front page of the store and do a little comparison shopping and realize that the price they're paying for that device, 7-inch, 10-inch, whatever, compared to, say, an iPad is a good deal. And, so they're kind of a value shopper, and I would not make fun of that. That's fine. And you decide to buy that device. And then, you get kind of stuck there because there's a non-standard user interface on it that's very Amazon-centric, that's always pushing you to the stores that you can't really break out of without, really jailbreaking the thing, which I don't really know anything about or care about. And I'm afraid that the phone is going to follow down that path. If you were to buy a Google Nexus 7, which is a tremendous device that's probably going to be updated next week at Google I/O, or any Android tablet, you would get a Kindle app that's just as good as the Kindle app that's on the Kindle HDX, for the most part, plus or minus one or two things. The iPad version of the app is just as good, and you're not locked into the whole Amazon buy stuff from our store, buy stuff from our store, buy stuff from our store.
Yeah.
Apple has some really crappy licensing policies that they enforce on their app makers. The Kindle app can't have a store in it, for example, unless Apple gets 30% of every purchase. So Amazon refuses to do that. The Kindle app on the iPad is a little weird for that reason. It doesn't have the store built into it. But when you open an iPad, there isn't a buy me now, buy me now, buy me now kind of thing happening right in your face. Obviously, Apple wants to sell you services and apps and games and movies and all kinds of stuff, but it's not like in your face. When you use a Windows tablet, not in your face. When you use a Google tablet, a Google Play tablet, or a tablet from one of its partners, Samsung, whatever, it's not in your face. I mean, it's not like the Amazon thing is just it's just a little heavy. I don't always want to be shopping a store,
They also make it very confusing for, I understand technology, as at least I think I do.
Do you, Andrew?
Well, sometimes not. I have a very difficult time. First of all, their UI is a little complicated on this app. I don't know what's free and what's not, and they do the same thing on Amazon Video.
On Prime Video.
Yeah, on Prime Video. I don't know
all the
what's
time.
free. I don't know what's not. I click on something, I find it, and I click on it, it says $1.99. But
by the way, it's worse than what you're saying because those things change. And
it
so,
does.
for example, yes, because one of the things I do this on Netflix and I do it on Amazon Prime. Like I'll go on my Roku device, not every week, not at whatever, no, not at any schedule, but sometimes I'm sitting here, I got nothing to do, I'm by myself, and I'm like, okay, let's look at the what's new list. And you go through the movies, and you're like, oh, World War Z just came out, for example. I just did this yesterday. I'll add that to my collection. It's on Prime, meaning I can watch it for free like you can on Netflix as part of my subscription. Someday later, I may watch this movie, whatever. And I kind of add these things to my collection over time. And so recently I was browsing around my collection, and I realized, like I clicked on something and there was no play option. There was like a rent it for whatever amount or buy it for whatever amount. And I was like, wait, what is this? And I realized I had added a non-Prime video to my collection somehow. They let you do that. Like in other words, you can't actually watch it unless you pay for it.
But you add it to the collection. Yeah.
Except that that's not what I did, because then as I went through my collection further, I realized, no, these are things that used to be in Prime that now are not in Prime.
Yeah.
And it's like,
But I'll tell you, Amazon has some stuff that other services don't. And I actually think that the streaming, for me, streaming on Amazon is a lot more of a stable experience than it is on Netflix. Netflix, for me, has gone to total at this point. You can bleep that out, Suncast. 3611.
Netflix has.
Yeah. Netflix is totally... I can't watch anything on Netflix anymore.
Because
it's like 360p at this point. It's like wired or not wired doesn't matter. I cannot watch anything on Netflix after 6 o'clock.
Oh.
And I'm on Fios.
Okay.
I'm on Fios. So there's that weird thing happening between them. On Amazon, no problem. Hulu, no problem. It's only on Netflix. And the other problem is
that ongoing dispute.
This is the ongoing dispute. And some devices, depending on what device you're on, it's going to be worse. I can't watch on my Apple TV at all, just buffers. But on my Google TV, I had to go back to Google TV because on Google TV, I'm able to at least get 480p. It's insane.
480p.
Wow. When 3 months ago, everything was 1080p, wireless streaming, no problem, no buffer, nothing. So something has happened. That's the only advantage
I don't think that's Netflix. I think this is the issue that Netflix is having with Verizon.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely Verizon. Yeah, 100% it's Verizon.
I mean, I wouldn't be happy with only Netflix or only Amazon at this point. And I'm happy to have both, and I would be happy to have more if I don't think I'd pay for another Netflix type thing, but I don't know. I don't know. I buy enough stuff from Amazon that being a Prime subscriber makes sense. You get these things for free as part of the subscription. That's fine. The problem with the music one is that it's not on the devices I use, so I'm never going to use it. And when I look at it on the web, it's awful, and I just don't care. I don't need something like, I don't need yet another radio type service or streaming music service that only has a tiny percentage of what's available everywhere else. The collection they have is 1/20th the size of Spotify. It's not that big.
I don't know why. I don't use Spotify.
No, I don't either.
I had it, but I don't use it. But I know almost everybody that I know uses it. And almost everybody that I know is extremely satisfied with it because almost everything that they want is there. They just don't own the physical media. It's not on their computer. It's somewhere on the cloud. But they're happy with that. I, on the other hand, still like to download music and still like to have a physical copy, which is insane.
But I do. What, though? This is that's old school, right? So a lot of people, because I write about these things a lot, and a lot of people liked the Zune stuff on the Microsoft side, or prefer whatever version, if it's iTunes, Amazon, whatever, where they can, buy it and have it on their device, or maybe a subscription service where you can kind of pay the subscription fee, but you can still download it to a device and you have it for offline use. So I think there's a certain case for that. And I think that is, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I want to listen to music on a plane. I mean, I'm going to have, the music has to be on there. I can't ensure that I'm going to have wireless on a plane. So it's fine. That's fine. More often than not, I listen to music that I already know. either an album or some selection of songs. Like I don't personally like radio stations. I would find myself, it would be next, 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 next. You know, I don't, but everyone's different.
Jessica's in the chat room, by the way, and she says Amtrak business class is kind of awesome.
Yeah. Well, wait till you get on a Cellar Express and you get into first class.
Yeah.
I think they would do her nails.
Do my feet and my nails.
Yeah, exactly.
But what do you now to move away from the service, because Amazon has a ton of services. I mean, they do web hosting essentially. They do, a whole bunch of stuff. And they have a ton of stuff like the photo hosting, and they're in almost every single business you could imagine. But their app store, they were gloating over the fact that they have 240,000 apps. Is that a good number to have? What is that like? What is that in compared to Windows Phone?
I don't even know what the current number. Let me see if I can find that out. I'm not sure what the current number is for Windows Phone. That's a good question. Windows Phone, they just published something about this. I wonder if anyone knows. It's over 200. It's over that. I want to say it's 220. I'm not sure why I think that. Let me see. Oh, maybe not. At the end of February 2013. So,
Because 240,000. You may say, like, well, it's not the millions, like you. Like iOS. But if it's 240,000 quality applications, and it's the applications that you want, which if you go to, let's say, what are the top 20 apps? Facebook.
That's a tough one, though,
Twitter.
I mean,
but Instagram, Snapchat. If you have those apps, it may be enough.
Windows Phone Store is higher than that.
Okay.
It surpassed 200,000 at the end of last year. Sorry, I'm just trying to find it. I know they just talked about this recently. So the problem with the, X number is enough kind of argument is it's only enough if those apps are the ones that you want.
Yeah.
And often, as is often the case, Amazon won't have the ones that I want. I saw their post about how much the store had improved over the past year, and that may be true. I don't know. I don't use the Amazon store, so I don't really know. But I know that when I go and look at Microsoft apps, that the number of apps you can get from Microsoft through that store are minimal and are possibly like 1/5 the number of apps you can get through the Play Store. And that, why wouldn't Amazon at least allow you to install the Play Store on their devices? I'm sure there are licensing reasons for that, but
it's still extremely convoluted. Like, do you know how to get the App Store?
Do I know?
Like, how do you, if someone's like, hey, you should check out the Amazon App Store, they can't go to Google Play and download the Amazon App Store.
No, that's true. Well, but you can get it. Yeah. So you go to the Amazon store, and I think they send you a text message.
They send you a text message. Yeah.
On that. Yeah.
That's a big problem for them. How do you
penetrate
it's worse
than that, because remember too, in Google or in Android, you have to change a setting to allow
applications to be installed
or whatever. Yeah.
So it's, I don't know. What do you think of their device? And let's talk about this, because they apparently, according to the Wall Street Journal, have an exclusivity with AT&T only. Currently, they're at the moment. They're only going to be on AT&T, and I don't know what that means to this concept that a lot of us have had, that this phone is going to be $200 and you can take it wherever you want.
It means that they haven't solved that big problem yet, have they? Right? You would think that this device would be not tied to a carrier, would be something you could purchase directly from their store and use on any carrier. You would think that would be what it was. So that actually is very disappointing. I don't know what else to say about that. It's just that's surprising and not in a good way.
I don't know what that means. It may be
it's a rumor, by the way.
Yeah, it's a rumor. Or the device is going to be, still $199 or $99 if you have an Amazon Prime account and you essentially can take that and use it, whatever. Like, I would like it, but I don't want to go to a carrier. I just want to have it in the house. But I don't want to pay $400 for it.
I see. Yeah, if you have to go through a convoluted process on the Amazon.com website where you sign up to have a carrier account or add it to your own account or whatever, this completely obviates the advantage that Amazon has as a direct seller products to consumers, right? That this thing, what it should be, is unlocked, and you buy it from them and you get it, and you can do whatever you want with it from that point. If that's not what this is, and again, we have to speculate, it hasn't been announced yet. That itself tells me they're not onto something, you know. So I don't know. I hate to. God, it's weird. Like I hate to knee jerk reject this thing. I don't even know what it looks like, right? I mean, supposedly there's this 3D, interface and whatever. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be interesting things about it, but
I mean,
I honestly,
but who thought? I'm curious on this. We still don't know what it is, but essentially, what is it? It's like it's tracking where you're looking, so it shifts, right? I mean, that's the concept behind
maybe,
this.
I don't know. You know, maybe. Who can say? To me, like that's not the type of innovate. Like no, no one's going to buy the Amazon phone because it has something like that. I mean, you buy an Amazon device for the same reason you buy anything from Amazon, for the convenience of it and the value of it, the low price, you know. Them coming out with a really nice Android phone that was, you know, reasonably priced would be fine. I mean, maybe it's not enough to change the market or whatever, but
I don't know. I'm curious on what they're going to announce tomorrow because they have everything at this point. I mean, they have the set-top box, and they have the phone, and they have the tablet, and they have the app store, and they have the physical store, and they could be a threat to the market in that sense that they have covered everything. And I can't hear on my headphones, sorry. And I mean, they could take some sort of market share, but I don't know who, again, I don't know who they're marketing this product to. If you look at the ads for the Kindle Fire, initially it was, you know, people just sitting there and reading books. That's who their market was. People that had Kindles. Now, if they want a little bit more because the iPad exists, they could buy Kindle Fire. Now, if you look at their ads, their commercials, it's like a guy having a party and he can't figure out how to sync the music from his Kindle to the Fire TV. And he calls up like that tech support person, and a woman pops up, and they're having a conversation while he's having a party. Who is this person that's doing that?
Yep.
Like, and
I've
then
often wondered about all kinds of technology usage, things like that. Yeah,
like who's this guy? And then he beams it to the TV, and
right.
This wasn't your initial.
Let me tell you what the real experience is like. I just did this the other night, last weekend or something.
My wife did you spoke to the guy or a woman?
No, I didn't do that. I did. I mean, I did the Apple equivalent, which was I was sitting there with a couple of devices in front of the TV. I didn't know what I had wanted to watch, and I decided that what I wanted to watch was I wanted to watch Apple's explanation of Swift, right? This new developer language. And I'm a member of their developer program, and so I don't know if this stuff is publicly available, but through their developer website, I can go in and they have videos from WWDC. And so they had like a, you know, state of the platform kind of speech. And then they had an introduction to Swift or whatever it was called. And I'm like, all right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring this up on my Apple device, an iPad, and then I'm going to use AirPlay to put it up on the Apple TV, and I will watch it on my HD TV. This is Paul's, you know, night in. This is how boring I am. The problem is you spend the first half hour trying to get it to work, and it doesn't work. It sits there, the thing circles, it says it's connected to the Apple TV, but it's not connected to the Apple TV. The video never appears. You can't get it to play back on the device, and eventually I have to like go over and like unplug the Apple TV and then let it boot up again, and then it makes the connection and it works fine. And that's what that's really like. You know, like I'm not saying every single time, but I mean the reality is these scenarios that you always see in commercials where it's like, oh, you know, I'm going to push the content to the TV.
And there you go. It's there. Yeah.
You know what? Not really. And this is the Apple. And by the way, the Apple stuff, to be fair, is the best of the lot.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you've ever tried to use like Miracast on a PC or something, on a tablet, whatever. I mean, God, you just want to stab yourself in the eye with a fork. It's so awful. And so every time I see a commercial like that or a demonstration like that in a press event, whatever, it's like
this isn't a perfect environment. Like for me,
it's just not how it works.
I have the TV that I have in my living room. It's a 65-inch, beautiful Samsung TV. I'm sorry, my bedroom. I got this gigantic TV in there, and it was on sale. Just got it for like $899 at Best Buy during Black Friday. But the problem with it is it only has 2 HDMIs. So one is obviously my cable, and the other one is whatever. But if I want to switch from, let's say, a Roku to an Apple TV or to my Chromecast, I have to get up and physically press buttons on my HDMI splitter. Like, that's what most people are doing. They're not just sitting back and they're hitting one button and everything magically works. That's why the concept behind the pass-through that Google had really appealed to me, because most people don't want to go around pressing buttons. They just want to get it to work. But we saw what happened with Google and their whole concept behind the TV.
Well, and that's why on the Windows side, people are really excited about Miracast, despite our years-long experience of wireless technologies never working correctly on with our devices. And more often than not, the simplest solution is always the best. And we do this on home swaps or whatever, where you have a laptop and they got a TV over there on the wall or whatever, and you have an HDMI cable, and hey, that works. And it's not elegant. I get that. It's not super hot, super duper futuristic and stuff, but I just want to watch the frickin' movie.
That's it. That's all you want to do.
And yeah.
Since we were talking about Google, let's move on to this one. Google I/O is next week, and I do not have a lot of high hopes for this.
Really?
Yeah, I don't.
Why?
Because I've been disappointed the last 2 years. We have gotten
at Google I/O.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. We have not gotten that big major change in Android yet, which we might, we may get it this time. They may. It's time to change it a little bit. I think now they're getting a little dated with their UI. They need to kind of step it up a little bit.
I'm going back to look what I wrote about Google I/O. I can't find anything in 2012.
Well, last year, I don't remember. 2012 was what? The Google glasses.
That's the one I don't have any link for.
With the parachute, they flew in.
You'd have to go back to, when was it? Like 2011, something like that, 2010, when they did, that crazy media device, and that was the one where they.
No, that was 2012. That was 2012.
2012. Oh, yeah. I didn't even cover it for some reason. Maybe that was why. I was just so freaked out by it. Trying to see what they did.
What was it called? The Q?
Cube with a Q, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they launched Google Music in 2010, movie rentals on Google Play, which was called something else back then. I mean, really, when you look at this, it's mostly been about, or a lot of it's been about Android. Obviously, there's been HTML5 stuff, which I assume is related to Chrome OS. Chrome, I don't know. Like I kind of enjoy the Google I/O events, and I would say this is comparable to WWDC from an announcement standpoint, and the types of stuff, and they card out the big numbers, as Apple does.
Yeah, but this year, there's a couple things. One, we haven't seen any major shifts in the UI of.
By the way.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I just there's been a lot of conversation on Twitter about who was first. The theory being that Apple follows no one. Google announced developer APIs for activity recognition, including fitness tracking, at Google I/O a year ago. So as part of Android. So I mean, Apple announced that as part of iOS this year. I mean, so as far as like who's following who, there you go.
Oh, absolutely. I can't imagine anybody at this point saying that.
I get this a lot.
Apple's innovating the field.
Well, the argument goes like this. Well, Apple hasn't announced any products yet, but it's well known that they've been working on this for a long time. So obviously these other companies are just following them to the market.
There's spies everywhere. Guys, people are just sitting there.
I get that you like to give Apple a pass on everything, but
listen, in some scenarios, they did innovate the market.
Of course,
but the iPad, the iPhone, but they weren't the first ones to create a tablet.
This kind of insanity is always that one-way street. It is always about they're happy to cheer you on when you tell them that Apple absolutely innovates and they lead markets and they do stuff and they're great. Yep, and then sometimes they follow too. Whoa! No, Apple never follows. Well, what about the iPad Mini? Oh no, that was in the roadmap forever. No, it wasn't.
No, Steve Jobs said
Steve Jobs didn't want to do it. I mean, no, he didn't want to do it. And by the way, that isn't like based on public information only. It's based on his autobiography. It's based on the comments that Tim Cook and other people at Apple have made. It's based on like what we would call reality. You know, no, but like it's just it's always been the tough thing with the Apple crowd. There's always that kind of one-sided nature. You know, Apple only innovates; they never follow.
I mean, at the Google side, it's fanatical. Also, I feel like they have a real diehard group of people that swear by Android and they swear by the Chromebooks, and this is the future of it. And they may be right. Who knows? We don't know yet.
Google may be right.
Maybe Google's right.
They're clearly onto something, right? I mean, Google will benefit. Google temporarily has a disadvantage in that they don't have, these legacy platforms that are kind of like what we call on-premises or whatever, and that they're only in the cloud. But that's where the world's going, and so they actually benefit from that because the world is going to the cloud, and they're sitting there iterating, and they're ready for it. And it's not a zero-sum game, but I mean, Google's a big part of the future, whether you want them to be or not.
So the next version of Android will begin with an L. And nice. The rumor is it's going to be called Lollipop.
They should call it Lumia.
Lumia. The Android Lumia. It's either going to be version 5 or 4.5. Nobody knows. You know what's amazing to me? And maybe you would have the answer or someone in the chat. Why is it when it comes to a Google product, it's so tight-lipped, nobody knows a thing. But when it comes to even Apple now, everything is announced weeks prior to the announcement. Like, we don't know anything about the next version of Android.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We don't know what the name is. We don't know what the major feature is going to be. We don't know what the major focus is going to be. Even with their devices, we don't know what the Android TV is being rumored that it's going to be called. But we don't know what Android TV is going to be, essentially. We saw some screenshots months ago, but that was it.
Right.
Nothing else. I'm curious on why no information
the device
comes
side
out.
is like that as well, by the way, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Until it's being announced.
You'll see occasional rumors about the phone, and you'll see occasional rumors about a supposed Nexus 8, like an 8-inch, Next tablet. But the Nexus 10 hasn't been updated in almost 2 years, and there have been rumors that this thing was getting, here it comes. I mean, by the time that thing ships, they will have skipped like 3 Android versions. And so if they ever do update that tablet, I would hope there's some explanation at that time when they do it. But that's been a very interesting case of nobody has any idea what's going on there. And that's been 2 years in the making. Like, no one's heard anything about this.
Like, I follow the Android stuff because I have an Android phone, and I've never heard of half these things that people, like, Silver is coming. Rumors of Google's planning to replace a Nexus line with a high-end line called Android Silver.
Okay. Because what the world needs is more high-end premium devices. And
apparently, people saw prototypes of it at the Moscone Center. But the rumor is that it's going to be released next February. I've not heard about this. Like, everything is so, like, there's no information. And I find that amazing. Yeah. Either they're very secretive and they're better than any other company, or all these other companies are releasing all the information. Like, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. Yeah. Just 9 to 5 Mac. Just here's a shell of the next iPhone. I've seen 500 iPhone shells. I already know everything about this device, and it doesn't even exist.
By the way, what you've seen is 500 iPhone mock-ups. And if you're an Apple blog, you will write a post every single time someone who has made a mock-up, right? In other words, they didn't obtain a shell. Like, this is something they invented the shell. It's a made-up shell. It's a mock-up.
Yeah, somebody made it on a 3D printer.
Yep. Yeah. And then they put it, like, here, look, here's the iPhone 6 mock-up next to an iPhone 5S. And that's a post. And then, oh, look, here's a video of someone with a mock-up and next to an HTC One. Oh, wait. Now here's one of the, I mean, seriously, like, this is what these people's lives are like.
I can't wait for the laser. I want the iPhone to have that laser keyboard shooting out of it, like we saw a couple years ago.
Right.
Fox 5 News. I'll never forget it. I'm watching Fox 5 News in the morning, local, and they're lining up. They're showing the line at the Apple Store, and they're showing this video. And the woman, the news anchor, she doesn't know. I mean, she's a dummy when it comes to this stuff. She's talking about, right. And the next iPhone is going to sport a laser-guided keyboard, and they're showing all this crap. I'm like, what planet are these people on? But that's awesome. The problem. And then they announce a regular phone, something that's amazing, and nobody cares. They're like, where's my laser? But to kind of go back to Google, before we wrap it up, Google Fit is another announcement, possible, another rumor.
Oh, so they're also following Apple.
And they're also following Apple. Android wearables. We're going to start seeing more Android wearables. Possibly information about the next version of Android. Either it's going to be 4.5 or 5. By the way, KitKat, 14% penetration into the market. 14%. It's been out since October. I don't consider that an impressive number whatsoever.
Right.
If only 14% of your market is your latest operating system, there's a problem there. There's a disconnect. And of course, Android TV. Another attempt at the television.
Yep.
Quantum Paper? I don't know what this is. Design, develop, distribute. Okay, so it's going to be it's their new framework for Google products and across the board. You know, they really do have the ability to disrupt the market and to put out these amazing devices and to streamline everything. But I just feel like it's that beta mentality that they've always had where we'll put it out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, so what?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's absolutely. I mean, that sounds like a lack of strategy, but really that's their strategy. And
the Chromecast.
I don't know, it's funny. It's actually interesting how much of it fails, you know.
Chromecast.
Yeah.
The concept is good. It would be great if it was incorporated in, let's say, a Google TV.
Well,
which it probably will now, but I've never seen another company do that. I mean, could you imagine a Microsoft put out a separate device other than the Xbox, or even Apple put out a separate device other than the Apple TV that did AirPlay or streaming from your desktop to that device? I could never imagine any other company being able to pull that off and for the media to praise it like they did with Google. I don't think Apple could do it.
I think Apple could do it, but I as I've said too many times, maybe, you know, the Chromecast, I feel like, is incredibly flawed, and that the notion of getting something up on a tablet or a phone and then putting it onto your TV is fine, but the next step needs to be a really simple remote control that allows you to control that content. Because the phone or the tablet is not going to be it unless you're sitting there kind of compulsively keeping the screen on. And I just feel like that's a huge flaw of that device and something that would be so easy to fix.
Yeah. So we'll see. What are you guys hoping to see at Google I/O? Let us know. Send me an email, guysfromqueens@gmail.com. Obviously, next week we're going to be talking about it because it's going to be on... What time is it on? Because it may be on when we're on. No, it's the 25th. No, sorry. Is it the 24th or 25th? Because 25th is a Wednesday. So I guess either it's going to be on the day of, or it's going to be the day after, and we're not going to be able to talk about it. So I don't know. I'm hoping to see a updated Android TV, and maybe get some information. There's nothing else for me. I've given up. Oh, Google Glasses. That's another thing. We may see a new version of Google Glasses, a consumer version.
Google Contacts.
You know what? I would get that. That is something that I do want, and I honestly believe that they are working on that, and that is the future of Google Glass.
I'm positive they are as well, actually.
Yeah, 100%. And I would be the first in line to get that. I don't want to walk around with a stupid thing on my head. I want it in my eye.
Yeah.
I want lasers to shoot out of my eye.
Right, and maybe make a keyboard of that.
And make a keyboard. You know what? They probably can. I'll just look down. My eyes will beam the keyboard, and I'll just type away.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect. Winsupersite.com, all things Paul Thurrott. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarin. You can follow Paul at Thurrott. Again, guys, support us. Use our Patreon. Use our Amazon affiliate link, actually. If you want to help out the network, every time we do an update, we buy it on Amazon. Every time we upgrade a camera or cable, you could go to gfq.co/Amazon. That's gfq.co/Amazon, or click on the Amazon banner on the top of the website. If you go to gfknetwork.com, bookmark it, and whenever you buy something on Amazon, use that link, and we get a tiny little credit. Also, our Patreon campaign, that's patreon.com/whatthetech. You can go there. Paul, anything coming up for you?
Oh, boy. Actually, yes. So tomorrow night, I'm going to be speaking at the IT Pro user group actually, they're in a new location. Where are they now? They are in, geez, I'm terrible. Where are they? Sorry. They are in Seekonk, Massachusetts, which is kind of down near Fall River. So if you're in southeast of Mass or south of Boston anyway, Rhode Island area, I'll be speaking there tomorrow.
Go say hi to Paul.
Yeah, come on down.
Yeah, I could listen to Paul talk all day. All day long. I could just go and listen. Yeah.
Presentations are ludicrous. It's really...
Well, I would be happy to go and sit there and hear your presentation. If you want to hear Paul...
I'm sorry to keep interrupting. They're designed to keep me entertained.
If you want to hear Paul speak some more, you can watch Windows Weekly on tomorrow, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. East with Mary Jo Foley and Leah Laporte on the Twit Network. One of my favorite podcasts to listen to. I'm always in the chat room just listening to Paul talk, Mary Jo talk. And that's it, guys. We will... Hey, if you're watching live, actually, stay tuned. We're going to be talking, doing What the Talk. And talking. See you next week.